Welcome once again. I'm Charlie Greenberg, your host and moderator for Digital Business Demos. This is the series where we provide live business demos that focus on different digital transformation and platform strategies, and in particular demonstrate different components and products within Software AG's digital business platform. Today we're talking about RPA, or Robotic Process Automation, and its continuously expanding role in the creation of software robots. In just a moment, we'll be joined by Mirza Salihajic, Senior Product Manager, and our special guest demoer, Shirley Ashkenazi, who is the Director of Strategic Alliance at Cryon Systems. But first, I'd like to point out, as usual, that today's presentation is being brought to you by Software AG, a 48-year-old organization well known for customer-centric innovation. In fact, Software AG is ranked as a leader in many innovative and digital technology categories. We have more than 4,300 employees, $1 billion in annual revenue, and we can cite over 70% of the Global 1,000 as customers. And those customers include well over 2 million developers at leading organizations who have adopted Software AG products to innovate solutions cross-industry, cross-public and private sectors, solutions such as RPA, as we'll be seeing today, and who also rely on Software AG to complete their digital journeys as enterprises by using the end-to-end capabilities of the digital business platform. Before I pass the presentation over to Mirza, please keep in mind that following Shirley's presentation and demo, we will provide a Q&A session. So as usual, please use the WebEx Q&A box at the bottom right-hand side of your screen for any questions and comments. And with that, it's my pleasure to introduce Mirza Salihajic.
Thank you, Charlie. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. We are very excited to have you here and use this opportunity to talk about the latest capability that we have added to our platform, which is Robotic Process Automation. We have a live demo for you today, as Charlie mentioned. But before we do that, let me briefly explain why RPA is so relevant and how does it fit into Software AG's offering. So this is how production line in automotive industry looked like 60 years ago. The work has been done manually, and people were working in the line doing the same tasks over and over again. And this is how it looks today. Now robots are doing this repetitive work, and people jump in only in case of some exceptions. So industrial robots have completely changed blue-collar work, not just in automotive industry, but manufacturing in general. Now today, software robots are about to change white-collar work. And Forrester Research predicts that there will be 4 million robots doing office and administrative, sales and related tasks by 2021, which is not far away. And this is basically the reason why. In digital age, manual activities curb productivity. Here are some examples. In many areas, people still work using paper instead of digital forms, digital applications. But also, if we use digital technologies, we need to do a lot of repetitive, mundane work like manually filling up lengthy forms, collecting and moving data from one system to another, or we create spreadsheets and PowerPoint slides for reporting, for data analysis, and so on. And all of these activities are time-consuming, they're costly, they're labor-intensive. Manual work is error-prone, so it can result in poor quality, and besides that, there is no real added value behind it. But the good thing is, these activities, these kind of activities can be easily automated using robotic process automation. So RPA can help you reduce costs because robots can do the same activities much faster than humans can do. They can work 24 hours, 7 days a week. They can make much more transactions in the same period of time than humans can do. So they can not just only save costs, they can also increase productivity at the same time. And since they are faster, they will also accelerate processes. Once they are configured to do a specific task, They do it really good, basically exactly how you configure them to do it. So there are less errors, which leads to better quality at the end. And also, you'll have more satisfied employees because their jobs are refocused to more interesting tasks that require human judgment, social interactions, empathy, creativity, things that software cannot do, things that only people can do. And since robotic process automation is really easy to implement, comparing to some other technologies, there is no need for any deep integration or change of the underlying processes and applications. It's currently one of the hottest topics in process automation area. But what is robotic process automation actually? So robotic process solutions enable companies to configure computer software or so-called software robots to capture and interpret existing applications, to process a transaction, to modify data, to trigger some responses and communicate with other systems. In plain English, it's a software performing repetitive activities instead or for humans and eliminating as much manual steps as possible. So it does that by fully automating actions that are required to complete a specific task. So we talk here about repetitive tasks and tasks that can be driven by business rules and do not need human intuition. RPA then automates human interaction on the UI level by capturing user interaction with applications or systems to complete the task, and then reproducing that process automatically whenever it's needed. So once automated, those tasks can be completed by robots without the need for human supervision. So the benefits are very clear. Processes run faster, less cost, higher efficiency. You can get more work done with the same number of people or even less people. And RPA is best suited for so-called swivel chair processes where people take inputs from one or multiple systems like email, spreadsheets, whatever. They process it using some rules and then enter the outputs into systems of record like ERP or customer relationship management systems or something else. These kind of activities are very common, for example, for shared services like finance, accounting, HR, IT, customer service, etc. And what you see here are a couple of examples, transferring information between different applications and systems, like receiving Excel spreadsheet, copying data, retyping in ERP or CRM or some other system of record. Another example is data extraction and conversion. For example, you get an image file or a PDF file, basically a scanned document where you need to extract information, where you need to read this information, then copy it or retype it into some other system. This is also something that robots can do faster and cheaper. Mass email handling, periodical generation of reports, like getting data from multiple sources, copying to Excel, sending to a specific audience, etc. Basically, all the things that need to be done, although you would like to avoid them, but they need to be done to do your job. Okay, at this point, it's important to understand that there are two modes of how you can create and run the robots: attended mode and unattended mode. In attended mode, robots are supposed to assist human workforce in completing tasks. They live on users' desktop, and users can then run the robot to complete a particular task for them. In unattended mode, robots can replace human workforce. They run on the server without supervision, and human intervention is only required in case of some exceptions. And in the demo, in a couple of minutes, you'll see both of these modes. Now, one of the most important questions is, what is the relationship between robotic process automation and, let's call it, traditional BPM? They are basically both process automation technologies. They are addressing similar problems, but have slightly different approach. So the question is, do you need RPA or do you need BPMS? And if you are already using one of these technologies, would it make sense to add the other one in addition? For example, if you have already BPMS in place, would it make sense to add RPA and on top of it. So let's see how these both worlds actually come together. And let's start with BPMS. So BPM projects basically aim to improve IT architecture in order to allow greater flexibility in process automation, process management, means better visibility, faster cycle times, better work coordination, etc., etc. They usually follow traditional software development lifecycle, and there are usually also a lot of people involved in such kind of projects. So the implementation then takes some time. And it is usually also done by IT experts. And the final goal of such kind of projects is transformation. So it's about strategic, continuous process improvement. RPA projects, on the other hand, usually their goal is to increase productivity and efficiency on departmental level. So the focus is not transformation, but acceleration of existing processes. And RPA is faster and easier to implement than BPM because it's non-invasive, means there is no need for deeper integration with other systems. It can run on top of other applications. And good solutions also allow business users to configure bots, which means they can create them without any coding. This makes RPA more a business tool than a traditional BPMS. So very often RPA projects are business-driven initiatives, and the goals are, again, increasing capacity, lowering costs, etc., etc. RPA also allows to quickly show results, but it focuses on specific type of tasks. And the automation that takes place is more on the UI level, not so deep like BPMS, where you go to the API level. So both of these worlds have their strengths and their weaknesses. And we think that these both technologies are completely complementary, and combining them into one integrated solution is a strategic approach to digital business automation that is future-proof, and that will basically enable you to get the best possible output of your business processes. So now let's see how a simple example, how a simple process could look like if we combine capabilities of BPMS and RPA. You would basically use the BPMS capabilities to orchestrate the process. Let's assume that we have process flow with some fully automated steps and some steps that should be performed by people, human workforce, basically user tasks. And these user tasks require some actions to be done by the user. Let's say to collect some information from different systems, to create a quote, cancel quote, etc., etc. So some of these tasks have to be done by real people because they need some kind of human intuition, human decision. But at the same time, there are a lot of examples where robots could take over and perform those actions instead of human workforce, or assist human workforce to complete those tasks. So now let's try to put this into a bigger picture. This is how a fully integrated automation solution looks like. So with our Dynamic Apps platform, we basically help companies build business applications to improve customer experience and increase operational efficiency in order to help them differentiate from their competition. And if you basically think about it, if you want to become faster, better, more productive, one of the main capabilities that you need is the process and work automation. And I mean, not just straight through processing, but also human-centric scenarios with a lot of human interaction. So we have an integration layer to connect all your legacy systems, web applications, ERP, CRM, databases, any other data source. We use our integration server to expose services and APIs that are required for your applications. On top of that, we orchestrate end-to-end processes that may consist of fully automated steps, those services that we have exposed from the integration layer, and also user tasks. And these user tasks is where actual work happens, so where people are involved. And this is what we offer for many years with our products. And now with Robotic Process Automation, we are enabling humans and robots to work together in completing those tasks. So we support not just human, but also virtual and hybrid workforce, where human workforce and virtual workforce are working together as a part of the process. So with dynamic apps, you have fully integrated process, case, and robotic automation to support various work styles and any automation scenario. It's a comprehensive automation toolbox where you can pick and combine the tools best suited for your specific need, for your specific use case. And beyond automation, we provide all that you need to build, deploy, and monitor your applications. Means local development environment, mobile development environment, advanced analytics, and many, many more. We'll not have time today for all the topics, so we'll talk only about robotic process automation, but feel free to check our playlist on YouTube to see more about the other capabilities as well. So having said that, I'll move to the demonstration, but I'll quickly explain the use case before Shirley takes over and shows the live demo. So we have prepared a loan application process that we have automated and built application for. There are multiple steps in this process, but since today we are showcasing robotic process automation only, let's try to simplify this a bit. And you'll see these are 4 main stages in this process and 4 main roles that are involved in this process. We have a home buyer who, of course, wants to buy a house and needs a loan from the bank. We have customer service representative who works on this case and needs to collect all required information for appraisal request. We have a process owner who needs to take care that the process is running efficiently. And last but not least, we have underwriter who at the end approves or rejects the application. There is also video available in our playlist where you can see this demo in full length, so we will focus now on just one specific part of this process where we want to show how RPA helps to leverage additional automation benefits on top of this already really very automated scenario. And we will focus on customer service part. And what happens here in this step, we have a customer service rep who would need to contact the customer who is requesting a loan. Then she needs to collect a lot of information and enter it in different forms and multiple fields in the system. And since this is very consuming, time-consuming and distracts the CSR from focusing on the conversation with the customer, we want to help and don't let her do this manually, but use the robot to provide some assistance. So we'll use a robot in attended mode as a task assistant for our CSR. Once started, it will extract the required information from documents that customer has provided, which is in this case driver's license and W-2, and fill it automatically in the required fields of the application. This will save a lot of time for CSR and let her focus on the customer, which is of course the most important thing. So having said that, I would like to hand over to Shirley to show how it works.
Okay. Thank you, Mirza, very much, and I'm very excited to take part in this webinar and show Current Systems RPA solution. So as Mirza said, I'm now the customer service representative, and I have we had a very successful campaign for the mortgages, and I have this all the applications that I need to process into Dynamic Apps mortgage application. The documents that I need to kind of like extract the information from are scan documents, so it's the driver license to take the information such as address, to calculate the age of the applicant. Another one is the W-2 to ensure that the applicant has employment and his annual income. So for me to kind of like go back and start typing everything here, as Mirza said, will take time. Most likely I will make a lot of mistakes and it's very sensitive. So what I will do now, I will launch my attended robot, and the robot will actually do the processing for me on my desktop. And with that, we can I offload this mundane and routine task, although high sensitive, to the robot itself. So what the robot is doing now is connecting to an OCR engine, extracting the images that we just saw, parsing them into variables, and then populating the different fields that we see on the screen within these variables. The robot then applies a business logic layer, calculates the age of the applicant, ensuring that the document is valid, and so on. So basically, with that, we can ensure that this will be an error-free process. If I had to type it myself, for sure it will take me forever to calculate the age of the applicant. Instead of a $4,000 income, I could put $40,000 by mistake, so that could cost later on to the bank a lot of money and taking a complete different route within the mortgage approval process. Let's now have a deep dive look about how this is done. So if we look at the architecture perspective of the RPA platform, it's a client-server architecture. So we have the server in the middle, and we have few clients. One of the clients is the studio. This is the authoring environment that we'll see in a few minutes. This is where I'm creating the automation scenarios. They are then saved onto the server. The other types of clients that we have in the system are the robots. So it can be attended robot, like we saw now, which is installed on a desktop, or unattended robot, which is installed on a virtual machine. The unattended robot is your virtual worker, or yesterday I learned a new phrase, digital worker. So it's available to you 24/7. It can execute any task that will be assigned to it. The benefits of having a client-server architecture, there are few benefits. First, from scalability perspective, when you start your RPA journey, you can start in small scale, like with 10, 20 robots, and then as your needs grow, you can expand and add more robots that are connected to the same server. Second is the cost of change. So we know that changes are a part of a software development cycle, part of business processes. Our RPA solution embraces changes. We are very agile, which allows you a quick time to market and a higher return on your investment. So if now I need to go and change my automation scenarios, all I need to do is to go to the studio, make the changes. Those are then saved to the server. So the next time the robot will execute this automation scenario, it always connects to the server and download the most up-to-date automation scenarios. So you don't have any risk of going out of sync. In order to control your digital workers, we have this web application. This is the management console that we'll see in a second as well. You can connect to it from any connected device. It allows you in real time to see the state of your digital workers, who is overworked, who is underworked. If you have process that failed, you can rerun it again. You can initiate robots in several ways. One is by scheduling a task, and we'll do that together in a second. Another one is by setting a trigger. So when you have an event like an email that is coming, or maybe file that has changed, and you want to trigger a robot and initiate a task, but you don't know when it will happen, then you set a trigger. The server is actually monitoring those triggers, and once trigger is fired, the server will assign this task to the next available robot. So the server is really managing the queue and ensuring that the tasks are being handed out as seamless as possible. Talking about BPMS and dynamic apps, we also have an API. It's a web service that BPMS can consume and actually invoke and actually assign a task to a robot going through the server. So if now, like Mirza showed before, we have within the BPMS flow a call to a robot, this goes through just regular invocation of consuming web service, and the server is assigning this assigned task to the next available robot. This goes through the console as well, so it's a one-stop shop where you can see how the robots were initiated and the status of that. And of course, the robot will return parameters and the output back to the calling application, in this case, BPMS. So what we saw so far was the demo of the attended robot. I would like to show you a quick demo of the unattended robots. In this case, what we will do, we'll have a very simple demo. I have this Excel with a different stock symbol that, I populated based on my interest, like Tesla, like of course Apple, and so on. What the robot will do, it will open a web page, CNN Money of for each one of those entries, and will update the current price into this Excel, and I will get this Excel over by an email. Very simple process. So what we will do, we will go to the management console that you can see here, and we'll schedule a task together. So I will start, okay, sorry about the delay. I will start by assigning a new task. Okay, we'll call it, okay, what I'm doing here, again, thanks to the client-server architecture, I'm selecting from my catalog whatever process I would like to assign to the robot. I'm assigning it to one robot because it's installed on my laptop for the demo purpose. And let's put a time for it to kick in, and we'll create a task. This task is it's not a recurrence. We can also set a recurrence task, but this is just a one time. So what we'll see now, we'll see that my robot has some type of a gun, so we can see it here. And we'll see the robot will start kicking in a second. So in this dashboard, it's a bird's eye view of all the tasks that were executed in the last 24 hours. You can see on the right-hand side that you can group your robot into like virtual departments, very similar to the way you group people into departments. I put mine under sales operation. You can see all the other tasks, whether they were scheduled or triggered. In our case, if you noticed, I closed the Excel file. The robot doesn't need the Excel to be opened in order to read the information from it. So what now the robot will be doing, it will go in a loop, row by row within the Excel, take the symbol, take the stock symbol, parse it and open on the fly a web page with the next stock symbol. We'll take from the screen using our visual detection the current exchange rate, and once it is done, it will go back, update the Excel, and send an email that we will see in a second. Just a very simple demonstration of an unattended robot. Usually the robot is installed in virtual machines. For this webinar, we put it on my desk so you can see it over. So now let's see. Okay, let me refresh it. Okay, so we have the email coming. It will open it. So we can see very simple that the robot just populated and did what I assigned to it. What I want to do now, I want to take the time and I want to go into the studio and we'll record the process together. So this is the RPA studio. As you can see, it has all kinds of files and folders. The studio was designed for business users, by business users. So all these files and folders, of course, they can be, we have a role-based segregation. It is connected to the organization Active Directory, so you'll have a single sign-on if you need to. With a click of a button, and again, I'm creating my own demos, I'm not a technical person. With a click of a button, you can see the change management of the automation scenario. In this case, it's my studio, so you can see only my name in it. You can see when I made a change, what was the old value, what was the new value. If I messed up with something that Mirza prepared, I can always go back to the previous version. We have a concept of embedded wizards, so you can create a smaller chunk of automation scenarios, like modules, and then you can use them in a wider process in a reusability way. So you develop them once, you test them once, and then you can just plug and play from any process that you want. So for example, a login will be a perfect example to create an embedded wizard that will be called from a wider process. What I want to do now is to record a process together. So what do we have here is basically it's a blank canvas, and I can always start my process either by recording or configuring it with different commands. We have one of our main differentiators is the visual patterns. We have 5 visual patterns. It's a visual recognition. So our RPA engine sees objects on the screen in a similar way to the way you and I can see objects on the screen, and let's see how it works. So what I will do, I will press record, and I have this small recorder that follows me wherever I go. So if I have a process and usually that's the case, that spans across different underlying applications. It can be Citrix, it can be web, it can be desktop, it can be legacy. So I really don't care. I have a one-click recording throughout the process. This allows me to focus on the what I want to record and not on the how from a technical perspective to do that. I don't need to worry about that. Usually when I'm doing demos and I need to prepare for that, for example, I did a demo on SAP HANA, I downloaded a free trial, I played with the system a little bit, I then recorded, and then I augmented and added all the business logic into it. So let's do a simple recording together. We have this small countdown to kind of like think about the process before I'm recording it. And what we will do now, we will just add few items to my quick access toolbar. We'll remove them so I will not have any leftover, and we'll stop the recording here. What the RPA engine is doing now, it's analyzing all the applications I went through. In this case, it was only one. It was a desktop Outlook. Then it's analyzing the way I interacted with the different screens. Did I mouse click? Did I enter keystrokes? And so on. Eventually, what the RPA engine is creating is a type of a visual process flow as follows. So here you can see the three panes. On the left-hand side, these are the recorded steps. So if I go to this view, you can see that I really have a visual process flow. I have a start point, I have an end point. At this point, it's very linear because we didn't add any fallbacks or any business logic to it, so it's a very linear process. In the center of the pane, you can see the window and the way I interacted with the object. In this case, it was a mouse click. And on the right-hand side, this is where all the secret sauce is. So let's go into this portion. So what we have here is the following. The RPA engine first is identifying the window. So in this case, it's the Outlook identification within the Windows operating system. We then have additional Windows identification like a caption. In this case, it has my name to it. So if Charlie would try to run it, it will fail because it will look for my name. So very easily, I will remove this. I will make it more generic. Equals change to contains. I can apply to all similar steps. So think about the web application. You have your sandbox, you have your AT box, you have production. Each one of them has a different URL. With this one, you don't need any config file. You just create the generic identification, and that's it. When you have web application and sometimes the download rate of the page changes between the different boxes or the different environments, very easily you can handle that as well. I just set here a max wait time. This means that if my web page will be downloaded after 3 seconds, the RPA engine will kick in. But if, however, it will be downloaded only after 200 seconds, I will have the robot waiting. So I don't need to kind of like have it in a hard-coded way. If we look at the flow here, and we'll deep dive into the click, I really want to explain this visual pattern because it is super cool and it has lots of implications, especially from a cost of change. So when we do the recording, what the RPA engine is doing, it takes several frames in a millisecond and selects the best representation. So it doesn't look the objects in a color, it looks at them in a black and white, and you can configure that. So basically our visual patterns are based on a combination of image and text. Of course, you can also select text only, you can also do image only, and so on. We have projects running in China, in Russia, in Israel, in Latin America, so we really don't care what is the language that is being displayed on the screen because we are looking at the combination of image and text, and we're looking at it from an object's perspective. When the robot is executing a task, the way it looks for the object on the screen is very unique, thanks to this visual pattern. Basically, we don't do any screen scraping. We're not doing XY coordinates. It's very, very flexible. So the way that the robot is looking for objects on the screen during runtime is as follows. First, it will look in the click area when the script was recorded. So it will look in the left-hand side. If it will not find it, it will expand it to a stripe. And if it will not find it, it will expand it to a full screen. So in this way, I can assure that performance-wise, when the robot is running, by far it will be very lean process-wise. And if we're talking about the cost of change, think about the following. If tomorrow Microsoft will change Outlook and this object will move to any location on the screen, my robot will run business as usual. I don't need to make any changes to this automation scenario. If, however, Microsoft will make change and in Outlook, instead of this object, instead of files, let's say I have a new object, maybe folder. In this case, I will get an error when running. Here we have a very robust fallback mechanism that you, of course, can configure. And in this case, I will get error in step number 1, object not found. So now I need to fix my automation scenario, my automation script. But I don't need to record my entire business process from scratch end to end. All I need to do is append recording. I need to record the one step where I have the new object, and I will delete the step with the object that is no longer valid. So from changes perspective, it is very quick, it is very agilic in this aspect. But at this point, this is not really a business process because we didn't add any business logic, it's a very linear one. So let's see how we're going to add now the business layer and the business logic. What we're going to do, we're going to show you our advanced commands. So this configuration list, we have here a very long and comprehensive list of commands. Of course, we have a very comprehensive user manual. And again, you don't need to learn any scripting language. All you need to know is to understand which command to use and when to use it. So all you need to do is drag and drop this command. I can set here maybe a currency variable. Maybe now I will run my invoices in US dollars, and maybe later on I can overwrite it and run it in euros. I can add conditions. I can create branches, go to steps. I can manipulate text on screen. I can manipulate dates and time. I can open a web page like we saw in the unattended demo. I can, of course, read from files. I can manipulate folders. I can extract data from scanned documents like we saw in the attended demo. I can parse the attachments from email. And again, all I need to do is at the configuration level. I need to provide the server information, what message I want to parse, and then I can have rules about the attachment. If you have IT savvy programmers, of course, you can even include here DLL that you wrote and run it from the robot. Or you can write your own scripts in Python, Perl, Visual Basic, and run it from here. You can call a web service. So going and talking about integration with dynamic apps, we can consume a web service, any web service from this advanced command. We can, of course, run JavaScript on page. We can interact with database. We can run robot within robot. And as for the example that we saw with the Excel, I can read from Excel and map that Excel. I don't need the Excel to be open. So for that, I really don't need to use the visual approach. I would just use this configuration to get the file, provide the range, parse the parameters. I can get the values, I can update the values, I can run macros, and so on. I can interact with SAP object, with .NET object, with HTML object. I can read from the DOM. So basically, this studio is like, think about it as a toolbox. You have different tools to use at the moment of truth. Depends on your level of skills. I don't know how to run a JavaScript on page, so I will not use that. Depends also on your application, because when you come and when you automate a business application, in most cases you don't know how the code was written. You don't know how the application was written. So you think it's a web application and you can read from the DOM or interact with HTML objects, and then you cannot do it. So in this studio, you have best of both worlds. It depends on what you need to do. At this point, even without making any changes, we can run the process that we recorded. Just to show you that it's not a screen scraping, I'll minimize my Outlook, and let's run the process. So what the RPA engine is going to do now, it's going to execute step by step the process that we recorded together, identifying each object on the screen and selecting in this case, it's very simple because it's going to select the same selection I've made. If I would like to make it production grade, maybe I would use hybrid. So I will stop the robot here. I will ask the end user to provide its input, and and then the robot can continue. So I think with that, I would like to conclude the RPA section of the webinar. And Charlie, the control is back to you.
Thank you very much, Shirley. And thank you, Mirza. And before I pass into the Q&A session, please note that tomorrow is Software AG's Innovation Tour in Washington, D.C. And like the recent one we just featured in Chicago, you can actually still register for this event, or what we call an ideas network, where business and technology executives share inspiration with recognized partner companies and respected experts from around the world. So please take note of this location, that it's tomorrow, and feel free to reach out to us right now via chat if you would like some more information. And with that, let's begin our Q&A with Shirley and Mirza. So, number one, can the attended and unattended robots communicate?
Okay, so I'll answer this one. So basically, of course, yes, because of the client-server architecture. Like we saw in the architecture diagram, both the unattended and the attended are connected to the same server. And what we didn't see, because we don't have the time, is the hybrid model. So our hybrid model is kind of like allows a seamless execution between the human worker and the digital worker, regardless of who started the process. So in the two demos, it was very much a silo. Like I had to launch the attended, and then I had to launch the unattended using the management console. But with the hybrid, it's really a seamless flow, and it's a great way to have any type of worker communicate with each other.
How do you manage applications credentials?
Okay, so what we didn't see in the demo is our proprietary credential vault. So our digital workers, same like a human worker, they need credential in order to access the system. So in order to keep this credential, we have a secured credential vault. All passwords are kept encrypted twice on the server side. And when the robot needs to use this credential, together with downloading the process to execute, it also downloads the encrypted password. So everything is transferred encrypted. The decryption is done on the client side, and when the robot is done executing, everything is removed. Nothing is cached in memory. What we have as part of the credential vault, before the robot is typing the password into the application credential field, we're using the visual algorithm that I just showed you. So what the RPA engine is doing, first it will type some type of hard-coded like T-1, ensuring visually that this is the credential field, you know, with the asterisk or the circles, and only after verifying that it is a credential field, the RPA engine will actually populate the decrypted password. So if someone will try to hack a password through the robot, the RPA engine will identify that immediately and will stop processing at once.
So Shirley, since you executed the demo today, I'm sure this question would go directly to you as well. What type of skill sets are required for automation development?
Okay, so again, keeping in mind that the studio that I just showed you was designed really for business users, for business analysts, you really don't need to be a programmer in order to automate business processes. On the contrary, I think as a developer, you may get bored with the platform. I'm creating my own demos. I cannot say that they are production-proof, but when creating a set of excellence, our recommendation is to have 80% business analysts and to have about 20% with some I don't know, light to medium programming skills, mainly around JavaScript if you need to write a JavaScript on page. But there isn't really more to what you saw. It's not really a scripting language, it's more configuration, and goes back to Mirza about RPA advantage of having no code. So we are striving away from that.
Thank you. Here's an attendee starting the question by saying that they're using BPM and ERP for creating standardized single versions of the process that are being governed. So the question then is, do you see RPA being applied to this single view of the process blueprint and applied consistently across all instances where the process is operated?
I can take this one.
Good. Okay.
Charlie. Okay, so if I understand the question correctly, I would say yes. If you implement the process blueprint in a way that you use a robot to complete a specific step in this process, then this will be applied consistently across all instances of this process later on.
All right, thank you. Speaking of BPMS, excuse me, we already have licenses for WebMethods BPMS. Do we need additional licenses or a license in order to use RPA on top of it?
I can take this one as well. So if you already have BPMS, RPA is an add-on, so you basically need to purchase additional license for robotic process automation.
This question is looking for an opinion on the next era with RPA, and is there any connection you foresee with AI platforms in terms of helping to make decisions to understand the process?
Mirza, I can take this one. So the answer is yes, because as we said, the focus today was all these repetitive and mundane tasks, but for sure the next step is cognitive. And what we're doing on client systems, we're working on the next-gen RPA, and we are working on expanding machine learning capabilities using this visual algorithm, but expanding it to actually provide the wider benefits to the organization to what we call the process discovery, in which we are going to kind of like come with recommendation to the organization what additional business processes they should automate. So taking into vision that we can see what the agents are executing and the way to do that, and come with really ROI for each business process and improve it. So we kind of like see that as a continuous process optimization on our end.
Thank you, Shirley. And to the attendees, please note that we still have time for additional questions. If you would like to ask those, please use the WebEx Q&A box that you're looking at on the lower right-hand side of your screen. And also, I would point out that if questions are occurring to you after the presentation is concluded in the next few minutes, please note that at the bottom middle of the screen you're looking at right now, you'll see contact information for both Mirza and Shirley, and they would be happy to answer any questions that come up after we've concluded. This may be our final question. What is the licensing model for RPA, perpetual or subscription?
I can take this one. So we basically, I can really make it short. So we basically have both options, perpetual or subscription, depending on customer requirements, customer needs. So both.
Okay, thanks very much. Our thanks again to Mirza Saleh Hajic and Shirley Ashkenazi, who's joining us from Cryon Systems today. We very much appreciate it. Please note that we have a chock-full calendar of events coming to the conclusion of 2017. Next week, please feel free to join us. We're going to give voice to integration. As a hint, one of the presentations will be, or presenters rather, will be Alexa. In the meantime, thanks very much again for joining us, and we appreciate providing this information for you today. Have a great rest of the day.